city. Oh, Chief, are you recording this?
I just hit the record button so that we can upload it to our the city's YouTube page tomorrow or whenever we can get the disc to Peter. I apologize for my video. I don't know. I'm here, obviously.
Yeah, he's hiding up on the mountaintop up there, so that's all right. So the chief sent out our agenda and Marcy's communication with us. So I wanted to start off so we can introduce one another for our video. And again, I want to thank you for joining in on this. And we're in the home stretch, and hopefully we can nail down a bunch of things tonight and continue to move this process forward and get something to the governor by the beginning of April. So we have to get something to the governor by the beginning of April. We have to. So, so with that, if everyone could go around the room, we'll start with the top row and then work our way down to the front row. How's that sound? Mr. Yusi?
Bob Yusi, Director, Warren County Probation.
Mike? You there? Can you speak?
I think they're all on mute.
Okay. If you could unmute your microphone and then mute it after you've spoken, that would be great.
Okay.
All right, Mary, why don't we go with you next?
Mary Gooden, President of the Glens Falls Chapter NAACP.
Marcy Flores, Warren County Public Defender.
Miguel?
Sorry, the only person I can see is Marcy, so I'm not sure. Miguel Chico, I'm actually a detective sergeant now as of this week, Glens Falls PD.
Congratulations, Miguel. Well
Thank you.
deserved. You're welcome.
Rob York, Director of Community Services for Warren and Washington Counties.
Jim Clark, Fifth Ward Councilman, Chairman of this committee.
Hobbs Prado, Executive Director, Founder of Lower Adirondack Visionary.
Jason Carasone, Warren County DA's Office.
Diana Palmer, Glens Falls, Third Ward Council.
Jared Smith, Assistant Chief, Glens Falls Police Department.
Linda Wright, Office of Community Services.
Great.
Joe
Thank
Blair,
you.
who you can't see, Chief of Police, Glens Falls.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone. So I would just ask everyone to put their microphones on mute. And if I'm not sure, I haven't used Skype in a very long time, so I'm not sure if there's like a raise your hand button or whatever to speak, but if you have something to say, just, well, we all can see it, so if you just want to raise your hand, we'll and then we can recognize you, so you can go ahead. Marcy took the time to write the chief a very nice email with some discussion points, and we just wanted to go through those. And I want to turn it over to Marcy so she can be able to talk about this. I think a lot of the things that she mentioned are in our proposal, but if there was other areas she wanted to highlight, I would appreciate that. So Marcy, I'm going to turn it over to you.
No problem. Thank you. I have a series of 8 items. I didn't see in the proposal support of restorative justice. It would be nice if we put a line in there, something that says if additional funding becomes available, then such a program could be implemented to focus on juveniles and youth to divert them from the criminal justice system. So what I've done in all these points is I have just listed what I think should also be included, maybe for future discussions. We had talked about that they were only looking for 5 issues for the beginning. And we also had talked about that in the future, this program and this group would continue with other issues as things came up. And for me, I felt it was important to list the other things that I would like eventually us to reach. And I know we can't reach everything in order to get it into this report, but I just thought it was important to put out there other things for potential discussion when there is time. I thought that for tonight, it really is going to take a while to make sure everyone's happy with this draft of the report because we're already in January. So I don't want to take up a lot of time. I wanted to just put out some additional ideas for future discussion. And I thought I raised some questions in it that would be helpful for future discussions. So I'm comfortable with presenting these materials this way to the committee.
All right. So Marcy, I appreciate that. I wasn't even aware of number 6, to be honest with you. And I think we broadly touched on some of these categories. Some of the ones you had mentioned, I'm looking at my another computer with your document up. You know, there might be areas where I can look and see, and we can expand upon this in the document itself already. So, I mean, we already have a training section. So if there's something in there we need to add or whatever, we can already do that.
Right. So like in terms of that one, in terms of training, there was no discussion about the prioritizing the Glens Falls police officers' personal safety and wellness as part of training. And I don't know if that is in training to begin with, but to me, that would be something that would be important for the community to know that the officers' safety and wellness are included in training, and anything that could be to foster community ties and transparency to me is important. So that's why I listed just different topics with those areas.
No, and that was good because I know, and we'll get to the survey after this, but I noticed some of the comments talked about the wellness and well-being of the officers as well. So your comments were timely. So that's a good one. So, but yeah, I mean, you know, we've always talked about this group continuing forward, and and that's going to be a topic of discussion when we talk about the timeline moving forward, because we're going to talk about you know, finalizing this document to present. Not to say that this is going to be the end all be all, but and I can put something in this document to say that, you know, as we accomplish these goals, you know, we can add more to it or you know, amend it as we see fit to address some of these concerns or some other things that might come up. You know, this is, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, everybody, this is a living document that should never be stagnant. It should be something that is not just put on the shelf and collect dust. It should be something that can be utilized as a tool, you know, for years to come. And I truly believe that. So for us to just say, oh, this is the document and that's it, I think we would be doing a disservice to not only the residents of the city of Glens Falls, but you know, to the region as well. So I don't know if anyone has anything else to say about this, if they've looked at Marcy's comments, if there's some things they want to pull from this to put in the document. I'm more than happy to do that.
Jim, with respect to Marcy's first point on restorative justice, I think when we get to the section where we talk about diversion programs the probation department has, we can talk a little bit more about that and maybe add that sentence in there, because we do restorative justice programs within our department, and that may fit in there. And of course, if there's additional funding, we're willing to partner with anybody. So thank you, Marcy. And when we get there, I think we can talk a little bit more about putting that in that section.
Oh, that'd be great. So do you want to do that? Let's go and maybe we can squeeze these things in as we're talking over the subject. But I want to hit the survey first. I think if everyone had an opportunity to check, I thought that for the short time we had the survey up, I thought it was phenomenal. I don't know if anyone else. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm seeing hand being raised. I'm not sure who.
I raised my hand. If I can speak just real quick, the the feedback I was getting back from and what I've learned, the language that's in the proposals that we're creating, the marches, these mandates were based on what happened with George Floyd and the police brutality towards the African American population in our state. So there's no language to cultural diversity or towards making some type of progress to the 1%, which probably will, that percentage of the African Americans that live in our area will be growing in the next 5 to 10 years. So putting something in place that gets, to show awareness that we in language that's in there, because this is why the mandate was developed. So we get away from that with just mental health and everything else, which LEAP programs, that's all good, but we're not talking about why initially the mandate was thrown out there. There's no language whatsoever in these proposals about that. So I think if we can focus more too on the 1% that's here and the disproportional of the arrest and involving the POC in the community or speaking about them somewhere in this proposal, I think will be important to show that we canceled that conversation out of this mandate.
Okay. All right. Jason, I'm trying to see who else is. I can't see everybody. I can only see a couple. Yeah.
Sure. So obviously, I second what Javez just said. I think obviously we're going to want some language in there, at least some recognition of that. When we go to what Marcy proposed, I think a lot of it's already contained in some form in the document, and then there's some other things that aren't. I agree with Marcy and Bob on the restorative justice, having some discussion of that. Obviously, training we've gone over. There was a part on merger. Her number 3 was merger of Glens Falls PD with Warren County Sheriff's Department. That's obviously, to me, that's something that should be looked at by Glens Falls city residents in government. I don't live in the city. I do own, or my kids go to school in the city, but I don't feel comfortable being the person commenting on that. I just feel like I'm not a city resident. So that's a decision of city government. Goals, lead program. And maybe I'm wrong. I thought that there's room for the development of lead that might include some things with adults. I do agree that since this is all kind of a lot of things at once, we have to accept that we may learn things along the way that we want to implement that we might not know right now. I mean, I realize that. There was something in there about hiring a social worker, and it said giving greater preference based on gender, color, sexual orientation over a white male applicant. I don't know that we should put any language where we're going to give preferential treatment in any way to someone in that sense. I'd be careful putting any language like that into the hiring decisions. Sure. I think we want to avoid that. 6, I thought Marcy pointed out something important. If this is Marcy that put this out, the law enforcement misconduct. I think what we should do, in my view, and the group consider, is seeing how that comes to fruition, what it looks like, so that we might be able to work in some of the things that Glens Falls does into that office. I don't know that the office is even operational yet, so that might be one of those things when we get, as Marcy had said, some of this will be further down the line. And Oversight Review Board, again, to me, that's a Glens Falls issue, but maybe I'm wrong. So that's my position on those items.
Great, thank you. Anyone else have their hand up? I can't tell. I'm sorry.
I do. I think in the proposal, lead is geared towards adults. And then there was an extra sentence that says, and maybe think of something like lead for youth. So I think the lead program is intended to be for adults. Is that am I understanding that correctly?
Yeah, that's how
Okay.
we're working on that.
Okay. I think maybe just because in the proposal it says establish a program like Lead for Youth, but the first item under there does say establish the LEAD program, which is for adults. So I think we do have that included in there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hi, this is Linda.
Hi.
And one of the things I think the whole idea of having something specific to the disparity and the reason why, and something that one of the comments was in the survey about not just looking at African Americans and people of color but also all of the other minority groups. And so if you said something that identified, not only race, creed, color, as that kind of not discriminating across the board, because you say all citizens, but if you're talking about disparity anyway, all citizens could be those citizens that are labeled as Caucasian or white Americans. And so we want to make sure that all doesn't get generalized and lumped into whoever's talking, but actually spell that out. The other part I wanted to mention, and I really liked the comments Marcy had presented, but there is some restorative justice that's also being done with adults and young adults, and so I don't know if we want to, when you talk about expanding that, but also looking at restorative justice and restorative practices as a whole, because LEAD would fall into that as well, because it's really about restoring the community, and that's kind of what you talk about, safety of the community. You want to talk about that whole restorative people, so they still feel like that they're a part of the community, although they might have had some incidents or some run-ins with the police. So I wanted to make sure that we did that. And the other piece that I really liked was number 4 about the goals, and making sure that we identify what the goals of the police department are, maybe specifically, but not one big goal, but also the objectives underneath that.
Well, if I could just speak to some of these things and just to kind of clarify and add additional information. We are, as far as the LEAD, as far as that kind of broad topic, I have had conversations. It's my understanding that we have been budgeted for a social worker for 2021. So at some point in time, I suspect we're going to start the process of seeking out a candidate. Once that person gets hired, this is going to be it's going to be an entirely new situation for all of us, and so we're going to be kind of trying to invent the wheel to a certain extent. We've been able to do some research, and we've got some other policies from other states and other agencies throughout the country that have a social worker as a part of their police department. So, but to make it fit the city of Glens Falls, that's certainly going to be something that we're going to do. LEAD's going to be a part of that. Restorative justice. I've got a meeting scheduled in February with the sheriff and the person that was a presenter at our last meeting. There's already been steps. I believe Bob, you guys have already had one meeting already. And so the Glens Falls Police is going to be a part of the ongoing discussions to make restorative justice part of the way things are done in Warren County. And so I suspect it's going to be for all age groups, not necessarily just adults, but I believe it's going to be a broad spectrum just to make that part of the system that we have in Glens Falls, or I'm sorry, in Warren County. So certainly we'll make that part of the policy in Glens Falls. And another part of that, again, discussing some of the transparency that we talked really at the beginning of this process. I'm in the process. I officially took over as chief on Monday. One of the things that I need to do is go through and review each of our 93 department policies, and basically to make them my own as the author. And once, as I go through that process, my intent is to put all of our policies that are open to the public. Obviously, there's certain ones for security reasons or for procedural reasons that we can't post, but my intent is to put the overwhelming majority of them all on our police department website, so that if anybody does have any questions or wants to just take a look at them and see, and as some of the things that were in Marcy's form here as far as standards of conduct, yes, all of our officers are expected to adhere to our standards of conduct, and those are part of the policy, and those will be available to anybody wants to view them on our website.
Great. Thanks, Chief. That's awesome. Really awesome. All right. I appreciate everyone's input. Marcy, I really appreciate you putting this down on paper at this great talking points, and gives us something to work off from and use now and down the road too. So thank you very much for taking the time to do that. I want to talk about, or just briefly go over our surveys. Chief, I don't know, can you put that up on the screen to look at? I don't know about you guys, but I thought 259, right, Diana, was that 259 people responded?
Yes, that's right.
259 in the short period of time we put it up there. I thought that was pretty impressive. And there were some good comments. Obviously, there were, you know, I thought we could glean some comments from those, so that could be helpful. Anybody have any thoughts on that? I think we're in the right direction. Everyone seemed to say that we were. So. All right.
Just one thing that people would like to see our committee meeting towards the end. I know one thing that stuck out that, you know, I heard 1 or 2 complaints that someone couldn't hear our last meeting that we put up on YouTube, and I believe that that the last meeting that we had that we couldn't get the video on, I think came back where someone was really interested in why and wanted to be informed on what happened during that meeting. So that's all I had with that.
Well, we thought that the person that was responsible to videotape the first one that we had where it was live, apparently there was a miscommunication and he wasn't there. Obviously, we were prepared to have, because Lee and Mary weren't able to attend, so we were fortunate enough to have the Skype session set up, so we were able to do that. And I know that when we initially posted the first download onto the city's website, it was only 26 minutes. That was a download issue that's been corrected. The entire 90 minutes is up there now. So as far as ability to hear or not hear, I haven't watched it, so I can't speak to that, but that was the issue in regards to that.
Chief, is there, with this merger with you and Warren County, like I've just read a little bit about it. When is there, what's the progress with that and the discussion, and as far as is that something that is tangible, is really happening, or because and if it does, are these programs going to just merge into your, how's that going to work with the mandate?
There's no issue at this point of any consolidation there's no conversation of any consolidation with the Sheriff's Department and the Glens Falls Police.
Is there some language written like that, I believe, on a proposal that might be a merger?
That was something that was looked at by former Mayor Diamond. I think it was last discussed over 4 years ago, and the issue was decided not to go forward. It hasn't been a discussion since.
But is that something that we're putting in the proposal as language? If it's not...
I know that Marcy included it, that she would like to see it as part of the discussion moving forward. I know that one of the previous comments that we received from somebody also suggested that it should be something that would be looked forward or should be looked at. But beyond that, that's obviously not a decision of mine. That's a decision, I think Jason mentioned it as well, that's a decision that should be left to the politicians.
I bring that up is because Sheriff Farr is working on restorative justice programs. Their officer are doing, I believe, bias training as it is. So to merge that, saying, I mean, if it's not even being considered, you're saying right now.
Correct.
But to stay right along, are you guys planning on working with the Warren County Sheriff on these reform mandates to kind of go right along parallel with with criminal, as far as like where we are with criminal justice, since we don't have a criminal justice reform bill just yet. But I mean, being that you work so closely with each other, are you guys going on a parallel similar with this reform mandate?
Well, obviously, we have, the sheriff and I haven't had any discussions about any specific language. Obviously, we have our committee. We're focused on the Glens Falls Police Department. I think more as a county-wide thing as far as restorative justice and as part of the Warren County criminal justice system. I think that where the department heads and the leaders as far as probation, public defender, the district attorney's office, the sheriff, and myself, I think that would be something where if the powers that be, obviously, if it comes through this whole process, that is something that's encouraged. Obviously, we're hearing that it is something that's of interest, so I think that we're going to be pursuing that as a county-wide policy, probably working together to develop that.
Is this committee presenting that to the public as far as
No.
Right, but it's in the paperwork. It's kind of language in that proposal, isn't it?
What? The shared services with the sheriff's department?
Yeah.
Excuse me, it's language in what Marcy's 8 points is. It's
So-
not a part of our proposal at this point. If everyone votes on it, then,
Still going to be presented.
but no, right now, at this time, it was not part of the proposal that's gone out to all of us, as far as I know.
All I'm saying also is that the public going to look at this and probably think, hey, is that happening? Like, there's a merger, just in case someone looks at this and try to mix that.
Are people going to see Marcy's comments, or is that just something for processing for the group?
That's the internal document between this group right now. Yeah, the document that we're presenting to the public is what I sent to you guys to ask you to take a look at. And but no, we went through this process, painful process of the merger discussion. And back when I first ran for office, when I knocked on the doors, that was not something the public wanted to do, was to give up their police department. They were more than happy to sell the Civic Center, which we did, not our police department. Public safety is very important to the city of Glens Falls residents, at least in my ward, and it was the same in the other wards when we had this discussion. That's not to say that the police department can't work with the sheriff's office on programs and things like that. But as far as right now for this discussion, that's something that is not on the table, and that these areas that we're looking at right now are.
So in that, with that being said, is there a way, because when I look through the write-up, there's not specific word for collaboration with other departments and the task force or the coalition so can we put some wording in that just kind of identifies that ongoing process of continued collaboration with the surrounding.
And I think that's important. Yeah, we absolutely can do that. And that's what's great about this. We can, can have this discussion. And I think that, where there can be some overlap in training and things like that, where, obviously you guys are going to be doing a lot of training with with law enforcement. I heard you guys this afternoon. I was on your Zoom call this afternoon or your meeting, and you guys were talking about the training that you guys are going to be working on and stuff like that. So I think wherever we can help you guys out to lessen the burden on you, where the sheriffs and the city PD can join forces, where the training is all done at once, makes a lot of sense. That, I mean, we have a limited amount of resources. Well, at the sheriff's office, in the police department, and with you guys, and wherever we can help sort of coordinate things to do collaboration, I think is important. Absolutely. And nice meeting, by the way, this afternoon, Rob.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Chief, is there a way to put this survey up?
I can't even get my camera up, so.
I can try to share it if you want me to try to share my screen.
I apologize.
Yeah, that'd be great. Just briefly look at it, and then we can get onto the proposal and get that wrapped up. I can't. I'm sorry, I'm on my phone, so this is, I've got a small screen, so I don't have all the.
I don't know. I hit share screen and it didn't go. I don't know if I need to be authorized by the host or.
I'm not seeing anything show up on my screen.
Yeah, it's all black. It's dark.
Okay. Can you see each other now again?
Yeah, screen's back.
Or
Jim, I think you've got some hands up, so I don't know if some people are looking to jump in.
Yeah, I'm having issues with my stuff too. All right, who's got?
I was one of them.
All right.
Figure that out. One of the things that stood out to me in the survey was there was a lot of people very interested in having law enforcement walking a beat, being out on the street, and really interacting with the community. When I think of Glens Falls Police Department, that's kind of the way I view them. So I thought maybe a member of the agency could speak to that and just give us an idea of how they do that. I thought that might be valuable.
Yeah, please.
Just to kind of give you an idea, that was something that was a little bit more regular that we used to do, but when we lost our dispatch and when we've had personnel manpower issues over the years, and so just the way we're set up to handle calls right now, if we have pretty much minimum staffing, which is 3 officers and a sergeant, we really don't have the ability to assign anybody to the downtown patrols. But we've been fortunate. We've got 2 officers right now that are going to be finishing up field training in February and in March. And assuming we lose nobody else in the meantime, we're pretty much going to be full staffed in the patrol division. And so when we have that extra staffing level, those officers will be able to do those extra things as far as being actually out on the beat. And one of the things a couple of the things that we've talked about, and we're also in the questionnaire, was some of the older programs that we had is just putting the officers out. One of the things that we're going to seek to do is reinstate our bike patrol if we can. And that's a great tool, having officers on bikes, riding through the neighborhoods, riding through the parks, and that sort of thing. So just anything that's going to be able to put us in a position to be more approachable and give the citizens and the visitors of Glens Falls the opportunity to have positive interaction and engagement with the officers.
Great.
Yeah,
Thanks.
Lee? Yes, I was just thinking back to the with the officers getting out in the community and walking a beat, so to speak. Going back to the Segway, I called it the Segway Patrol. That was well received with the downtown residents as well as the neighborhood. They were able to venture farther away from downtown. It was into the neighborhood. I don't know whether anybody that's present tonight remember the Segway.
It's Mary's Segway.
That was Mary's mobile. That was Mary's mobile.
So that was very, very well received. I know they would even come all the way over in my neighborhood. I wouldn't expect, for them to walk a beat that far, but with the Segways, they was able to do that. So hopefully down the road, we'll get some type of funding and we could bring the Segway patrols back.
We're open to looking at everything.
All right. So I mean, there were a lot of positive comments. I think we're on the right direction. The areas we're hitting on. I agree that we need to beef up some of the topic areas. So let's move to that. I hope I didn't miss, and if I did, can someone let me know when I did up the acknowledgement? If I've missed anyone, please let me know. I did, the last thing I want to do is not thank somebody that I don't want to miss anyone. So I think I hit everybody. All right. I don't know. We'll just go page by page. So if everyone wants to look at page 3, is there anything, should we drop anything in here that we talked about already? Would it make sense to put anything in here that we've spoken on already? Please, somebody chime in. Yeah. I can't tell who's got hands up. All right, Diana.
Well, just when you say page 3, I think, is that the community engagement outreach?
That's the introduction page.
Introduction.
Oh, introduction page. Okay, I'm looking at it on my phone. I want to make sure I'm on the same page as you. Okay, never mind. Sorry.
No, that's fine. I think I covered everything there, but if I'm missing anything, I would really appreciate someone saying something.
I think it looks pretty good, Jim. I think you touched on what the governor was looking to do and what we have done with, with the mayor appointing people. So, I mean, I think that has some decent information in there with respect to the introduction.
Okay. If there's anything that, if I've missed anything or anyone's got anything they want to add, I'm happy to do that. But I think the meat and potatoes is the different areas of reform. So I tried to make it as user-friendly as possible with bullet points and sort of continue to stay on how we, it's easy to digest and stuff like that. So, so let's go to page 4 where we talk about community engagement and outreach. There are areas where we can expand on. Just feel free to say something, anything.
I think this, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to add that in the paragraph that starts, the Glens Falls Police Department has historically had a foot patrol. That paragraph, maybe you could add in at that point that if funding becomes better or funding becomes in existence, that you would reinstate those programs.
Yeah, and just to add on to that, really, we do have the funding for that. It's more of along the lines of a level of interest. It had kind of waned over the years, but we've got a very young department and we've got a bunch of newer officers, and certainly it's something that I intend on exploring. Some of the issues are going to be training. In order to be, you have to go to a week-long bike officer school in order to be certified to ride a bike. But just the broad language of this, these are all things that I intend on identifying personnel and getting the processes started. So just from my perspective in looking at this, the language is pretty good, I think, and it's just a matter of designating officers and formalizing and getting the officers out and engaging with the community. Obviously, COVID is is impacting that a little bit, but our officers are in the process of being vaccinated, as is the rest of the community. So hopefully, spring, summer, we can start to get back to some semblance of normalcy, and we can actually get out and start doing some of these things that we're hoping to do.
So, Chief, so should we put in there something like designating staff and training them to reinstate these programs?
Yeah, absolutely. That's fine.
I would suggest, if you want, at the end of the sentence, remove the period and say when additional funding and staffing become available. So that means the Glens Falls Police Department will seek to prioritize these two programs when more funding and staffing become available. That might be an easy fix.
Okay. Yeah, I did put something at the end after that. Okay. Is there anything else on here that we should take out? We should expand? Anything that I missed?
Can you hear me?
Is that Linda?
This is Linda. Yeah. The other thing I was thinking, we were kind of locking ourselves into and like the expanding of outreach programs, location of Village Green, the soup kitchen. Do we want to put in other areas? Because as other areas might become an area of a need or an interest, we might, want to look at that just a little bit differently to keep that expansion, and so that we, knowing that it's fluid and that it is opportunity to grow, to kind of say something to that effect, that we were looking at that.
Sure. So I'll put soup kitchen and other areas of need as they arise. How's that sound?
Yeah.
As they may arise.
Sounds good.
Did I miss anything from our conversations? That we've had. I mean, we've had a few of them, so I just want to make sure that I touched all our bases.
No, I think it's good. That page is good.
All right. So community engagement, outreach. If there isn't anything anything else, we can always come back to it if someone thinks of something. But let's go to transparency.
Okay, at the bottom. Okay.
Jim, under transparency, when it says share written directives and policy with the public, do we want to give some options of how they would be shared?
Okay, like through social media or
social media, whatever other mechanisms. That seems to be the big one. I mean, obviously on the website they could be, but social media, whatever other platforms that are out there that or may become available.
Okay, other public platforms or I'll figure something out. Thank you. Anything else?
On page 5, could I make a comment?
Please.
Okay, in the paragraph that starts, the Glens Falls Police Department currently has and utilizes body cameras. You talk about the policy, but that has never been published, whatever the policy is regarding that. And it also talks about that the police officers have discretion to activate the cameras in circumstances outside those prescribed policy. I feel like the paragraph is a little weak in the sense of I don't have a feel for what the policy is and what could happen or what should happen. And I think maybe that could be tailored if the chief looked at that paragraph again.
Well,
because obviously,
I was just going to say that our body worn camera policy is going to be online, so it's going to be there for everybody to see.
Okay.
So should we mention that?
Yeah. That would be great.
which will be, should we at the end say which will be made public?
That's fine.
While that's being written down, I think it's important when we're doing these to keep that, and I think people are saying things that give us opportunity for flexibility. That policy may change 6 months, a year from now. So I think it's good to keep that some level of flexibility and refer to a policy, I think makes sense.
Yeah, that would be great. If we go down to the next paragraph, I was wondering if, obviously, we all understand that the car cameras are more expensive, but maybe with greater funding, this could be included maybe in the future. It explains why it's not being done. But again, I guess part of this policy thing is if there's funding, maybe funding could go towards that.
All right, I can put some language in there about funding.
Okay. And the last thing I'd like to add on that last paragraph after doing the survey, once the survey is done, you're indicating that you're going to put it in with the annual report. You may want to put in a sentence along the lines like, once the public makes comments, obviously the committee or whoever, the Board of Safety, whoever you want to phrase it, will look at those suggestions and act appropriately to ones that could be implemented. I guess I feel that the last paragraph doesn't say what you're going to do with it. And I would think that obviously the way we talk throughout this whole thing is that you're going to look at everything and see what we could do. And I feel like that type of sentence is not in there.
All right. So I don't know how to write that in the thing.
And the comments will be evaluated by the department or by the city, however you want to word it.
Yeah, okay.
They're reviewed, evaluated. The fact that they're included in the report doesn't mean anything's going to happen with them.
Got it.
Or they're going to be looked at. I guess I'm looking for more transparency so it shows, oh yes, we got comments, we're going to do something. We're going to look at them.
Okay. All right. I got it. Okay.
This is Linda again. In the transparency, and when we had talked at our last time we got together, we talked about the public safety and how that kind of coincides with kind of some of even the grievances. So I don't know if that needs to be put in the transparency as well, that there are some other supports in governing bodies, that so it's not just an isolated police department just being reviewed of any systems.
Linda, I apologize. Could you say that again? My speaker went out, so the battery died. So I missed like half of what you were saying.
Well, last time we had met, we had talked about the, one minute of grievancy, but when my understanding when they explained what the public safety members did, that also that kind of looks into that could fit or should fit into the transparency and the engagement of our community, because it's overall public safety and arching. So I didn't know if there was some kind of wording or another bullet that we can indicate that, yes, there is a public safety committee as well. That's still kind of.
I also thought that we had a discussion about doing a civilian review board or using public safety as far as, because I know public safety looks into a lot of what the police are working together with transparency. So maybe institute a civilian review board language in there, or is it public safety looks into any problems that come up board with the police department? So some type of civilian review of the police department, I think, should be put in as language in there, or public.
Okay. All right. I mean,
I thought that was on paragraph page 8 when you talk about the grievance complaint policy. The first bullet point talks about the board.
Yes. Yep.
Paragraph 8.
On page 8,
Right.
the first bullet.
All right.
It's under grievance and complaint policy.
So
Yeah,
it's-
right, and I guess I was thinking of it more as a transparency thing in the sense of not just grievances and complaints, because they looked at, when, my understanding, they look at more than just grievances and complaints, unless I misunderstood.
No, you're right. I'll go ahead.
The board does do more than just that. The board is responsible for hiring. They're responsible for promotions. They're responsible for discipline. Pretty much, they are the civilians that are in charge of the police department. Obviously, I'm the chief, but I report to the public safety board and the mayor, and things that are going on in the department, training, arrests, things of that nature, hiring, firing, discipline, policies, procedures. It all gets run through the Glens Falls Board of Public Safety.
So how do we? I mean, maybe I didn't explain it well enough, I guess, obviously. I mean, we could certainly put, we talk about citizen review committee and stuff like that, but the Board of Public Safety is established by the city charter as the citizen group, to review all the practices that the chief has described, not only for the police but for the fire and EMS and everything else. So I mean, there are no law enforcement on there. There are regular people that are appointed to sit on the committees or on the board. So I mean, I always thought that, the board could be more than just, when we talk about mental health and stuff. It'd be great to have a psychologist sitting on the Board of Public Safety, to when that discussion is had. But I'm not sure how. I mean, I can work on some wording to expand. I believe we make the public safety meetings public, right? I mean, they are public. I mean,
Mr. Clark, I think exactly what you're saying right now about your public safety board, just putting in language where the public can see it, that would be some transparency. And then I think it's more layman where they understand how involved they are with the police department. Because public safety to some people could just mean, well, they're working with the sewers or the pipelines. Some people are not educated on exactly what public safety is doing. Some are. But I mean, you can also just state what you're saying right now about public safety inside this proposal, that they're looking more in, they getting more involved with mental health and, and more in depth with the police involvement in procedures and policy changing and so forth.
All right, I'll work up in
our public civilian.
That's actually all.
And the other thing is that we could just put a bullet saying also that under transparency that refers back to page 8 and and grievancy and covers a bigger perspective of what public safety is. So not necessarily even a lot of wording, but just kind of like a bullet piece to recognize that is part of the transparency.
Yeah. All right. I'll draft some language up and I'll put it out there and let's see if everyone is all right with that. And then we'll just, if that is the case, then I'll put it in and we can move forward with that. Thanks, Linda.
Before we move on, I just think just an explanation that essentially the Public Safety Board is our civilian review board. And just like the chief just said, just basically explaining what they do, how they are the ones that make the decisions essentially of the police department would go a long way in layman's terms for people to understand. Because we keep saying Board of Public Safety, but that is a civilian review board.
Yeah, so that's, so I will do that. I'll expand upon that a little bit and hopefully try to capture you know, that this is a public board that has public meetings that deals with the matters of the police, and you know, that anyone can attend, and these are some of the matters that they deal with, something like that. I'll pretty it up. Is anything else in this section? Speak now.
I have one from a concerned citizen, and they state, this is probably for Chief Boscov. Chief, is removal of clauses in police union contracts that are inadmissible to accountability, and thereof ability of the police to perform their job, including but not limited to those that are allowed police officer appeal their termination as results of civil rights violation.
Those are things that we don't have any control over. We have a contract with the unions, and there would need to be changes at state level for us to be able to do. There's a grievance policy. I can impose discipline, but then there's a procedure that's set in place via contract between the city and the PBA that basically outlines what the officer's rights are as far as following through on whatever discipline I may or may not impose. And that goes all the way up to an independent arbitrator that basically makes the final decision. And if say an officer conducted an act that I wanted to terminate them, they followed the grievance procedure that's in place, and it went all the way to an arbitrator, and an arbitrator overruled the termination decision, decided that it wasn't warranted, and that that person could actually force the city to take that particular officer back. So those are things that I know have been discussed. I certainly don't have any issue. I would certainly welcome the opportunity to have more authority to work with the Board of Public Safety and have more ability to discipline and remove officers that shouldn't be police officers. But a lot of that is currently there are roadblocks to that right now. I know that there's been discussions in Albany as far as changing some of the rules and laws associated, right? But that's again something that is beyond the control of the Glens Falls Police Department and the city, that falls outside of our what we can do.
Thank you for that, Chief.
You're welcome.
In light of the recent what was going on last week, and concerns of some people that are in that marched, and where concerns are were there any officers in your department involved going to Washington, or anyone from that are in public office getting involved in misconduct, and if so, complaints against the officers, if there's been any complaints and officers being involved with any of the proceedings that were last week in Washington at all, is another question.
Not that we're aware of.
All right, thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
All right, so let's move on to page 6, education training of officers. This is one of them where Marcy had talked about wellness training.
Yes.
All right, so we need to put that in there.
Thank you. Can I ask a question? Under critical intervention training, do you currently do that now?
Crisis intervention?
Yes.
Yeah, we do crisis intervention training when it's available, and when we have the staffing level. That's a very intensive program. It's a 40-hour training, and so we have sent officers to that. I think over the years we've probably sent 4, 5, 6 officers to that. Unfortunately, several of those officers have either transferred to other agencies or have left. I believe right now we have 2 officers that are trained in that, and certainly that's something that we're looking to when it becomes available. And again, that comes down to staff levels and abilities as well. It is a significant commitment of personnel to have somebody out of service for 40 hours. But certainly as it's available, it is a priority of the cabinet.
So maybe in that paragraph, could we add in something along the lines of when more funding and staffing becomes available, you will try to increase participation in this kind of training? Because the way it's written there, I wasn't sure if you have done it or you're currently doing it or you're going to do it. It wasn't clear to me.
Okay.
This,
All right. So,
if it just could be expanded.
yeah.
Okay.
While you're looking at that, something, I don't know if it's been raised, but on the whole wellness subject, Chief, I've worked with a lot of agencies, obviously, and a lot of first responders, and some of the more horrific scenes that your people go to, I know that there's been sort of responses to that have occurred quickly afterwards. I don't know if you have anything formal or if it's informal, but I've some children death scenes that I've worked on. I've seen that, so I don't know if there's anything that's in place that's formal.
We do have a formal. It is part of our policy that if we do have a significant event, and that we know it's one of those issues which can cause difficulty, we do require our officers to at least participate, at least sit in on we hook up with EAP, and the state police actually has a couple, they have officers that are trained that can respond either instantaneously after the fact. And we basically, it's, I guess, similar to an after action review. The officers aren't required to talk if they don't wish to participate, but we do actually have them at least sit down, and the either trained officers or EAP will tell them what services they have available to them. It's all confidential as far as what they do. Basically, I tell them, I put the officers in the meeting with them. What they do with it, beyond that is up to them. Certainly, if it's impacting their work, we have the ability to do a little bit more. But as far as any traumatic events such as that, we do have it as part of our policy that they have to at least be introduced to these folks to find out what services are available to them.
But Chief, we don't do anything for the officers is like from a wellness standpoint, do we? I mean,
well, we have the city has EAP. The other thing is this is a relatively new field, I think, for everybody in the law enforcement community. The current executive director for the New York State Chiefs Association, he's made it a priority of his to address wellness amongst officers, and there's a lot of back and forth among chiefs throughout the state trying to figure out ways to meet the needs of their officers, to help them with their wellness and to help them address the challenges of the job. And so this is a relatively new field that I think is just going to continue to develop and see what resources we can put toward our officers to help them with some of their struggles.
Sure. I mean, and to be honest with you, there's a lot of stressors from a lot of different, directions. So I think anything we can do to enhance that would be helpful. And if we can put something in there, that is meaningful, I would like to do that. So, yeah. Okay.
And just to follow up with the chief said, wellness is a hot topic in the community corrections too. So the chief is right on with that. So that may be something down the road collaboratively we could all share.
Okay. I'll put something in there about that too.
And while I'm talking, I know the Glens Falls PD is an accredited police agency, which is a big deal. Is that something, maybe it's been mentioned and I missed it, is that something we want to put under education and training, or we want to put that someplace else?
Did I mention that?
And maybe
we have a question mark that is explain what is involved. We can certainly expand upon that a little bit too, and just clarify what what accreditation means and what some of the obligations that imposes upon us as an agency. So,
All right. So, Chief, you're going to give me something on that?
yes, I can definitely do something in regards to that.
Okay. That's awesome. Thanks.
We're actually
Can I-
undergoing, I was just
Go ahead.
going to say, we're undergoing our 5-year accreditation inspection as we speak. We're working with our inspector, and they're actually going to be coming the 21st to make sure that we're doing what we're supposed to be doing to become reaccredited. So we're just coming up on our 5 years of being an accredited agency, and we'll know by the end of January whether or not we've been doing what we're supposed to be doing so that we can be reaccredited again. So.
Well, congratulations. Not everybody's doing that, so that's I think that's a great point.
Thanks.
Huge. Anybody else have anything?
I just wanted to add that if there could be a sentence maybe added at the end indicating that as additional training areas become available, that based on funding and staffing, you would try to encourage whatever new things come out in terms of training.
Okay.
I would say it'd be cultural sensitivity programs for officers to go on writing again, to put some language on there based on why the mandate was started for.
Yes. Okay, I'll put that in. All right. Additional cultural sensitivity training become available to staff. Okay. Thanks, Mr. Prado.
So thank you.
Page 6.
All right. Anything else?
Page 6.
All right. So let's move on to page 7. Recruiting and retention. I hope I got everything, but that's why we're here right now.
Could I add the third bullet from the bottom, recruit from within the community and from I would like if we could add something along the lines, and from communities of color.
Okay, anything else?
And to follow up on Marcy's, in bullet number 3 from the top, it says Glens Falls PD will conduct outreach to African American churches. And I think we should expand that to, I'm not sure what the word would be, to more places where people of color may have organizations or communities and things like that. It's just not limited to the churches.
Okay. Other
Churches, schools.
Wait, what do you, Lee, what'd you say?
I said the school is in there, right?
Did I put schools in?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, yeah, high school age and college age. All right. Churches and
Organizations.
okay. Yeah, and other organizations. Oh, great.
Organizations is.
That's a good
Right.
idea. Organizations, yes.
Awesome. Thank you.
Jim,
Yes.
Jim, is gender diversity an element that should be in here?
That's what I would think too. I would kind of broaden that out, not only just gender diversity, but, looking at all disparities, ethnicity, and, all of those pieces, under the discrimination act.
All right. All right. How do I work that? I want to word it right. Can somebody email me or send me something? I want to make sure I word it correctly. If someone could do that.
Across
Yeah.
all ethnicity. Let's see.
I'll do it.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else in here? Recruitment materials.
This is just a little point where it says work closer with local colleges, SUNY Adirondack Criminal Justice Program and Empire State College. Maybe we just want to mention, I know SUNY Plattsburgh has a satellite office at SUNY Adirondack. Well, at least I think they still do. Not a big thing, but it, you know, just to include them.
Okay. Yeah. No, you're right. You're right. I think they still do too. Good point. All right. Anything else in this area?
I was wondering, under New York State accreditation requires a minimum of 21 hours of training. Are there some trainings like implicit bias and things like that that are required trainings as part of that accreditation?
I would actually have to go back and review that standard. To be perfectly honest with you, I don't know it off the top of my head. I want to say that there are specific requirements, but right now I just can't answer that question.
Okay. I was just wondering if we might want to include the trainings that the police are already doing, just in terms of letting people know, such as, you know, and then list them or something like that.
Well, just that certainly we can make that part of the policy, but if Jim, if you wanted to throw it in there as well, that's one of the things that I provide to the Board of Public Safety on a monthly basis of all of the training that the officers undergo that particular month. So they actually get that, and I've started posting them on our website. So anybody that's curious to see what training our officers have undergone, they're certainly able to go on our website and see exactly what's been done. So, but certainly, if you want, I can provide you with a list or highlight certain trainings that we can include in our reform proposal, and also direct those with additional questions if they want to see what we're doing. They can actually go to our website and check it out.
So we can say, but that's a new thing, right?
Yeah, that's only been a couple months.
All right, so if I can put like all training will be made public on the website or something like that, and including accreditation training or something. Does that work?
Yeah, anything that speaks to that basically it's available for those that are interested to see what our training is. It'll be there for the public to view.
All right. Good. Anything else?
If you'd like to also include the community on recruiting, if they would like to speak to friends or family, if they have African American, we could, those usually our community of friends and family members make best recruits that are, from recommendations for our officers. It's really true. They be the best recruiters. So maybe include the community in recruitment of, if they can have an open suggestion box to, hey, here's an idea of a person that can qualify, and maybe send some information, having a informational survey for someone that might be interested in being recruited of Black or Brown or Asian or LGBT.
All right, so we can put something in there like more community awareness.
So does recruiting diverse force become self-perpetuating in a sense, or actively search for a diverse force? The best recruiters will be for our officers are from friends and family as well. So if the community has an idea of someone in the community that is hey, give us a name. They're about to graduate college, and they might be interested in working in the police force, and they have a degree or social worker that we're hiring.
Okay.
I mean,
So
just
I think
open for the community to be involved in some sense, I guess.
so. What we can do is expand
If
upon
possible.
recruit from within the community. We could probably make make aware through various means recruitment within the city for community. Yeah, yeah. All
Sorry.
right.
I do
Let's
have
do that.
something I can send you.
That'd be great. Thank you. Yep.
And just bringing up the conversation, it actually, I just made a note to myself. As I indicated that we are going to be, designate an individual as a community liaison officer. And I think one of the tasks that we can do is have that person reach out to organizations such as yours, Habas and Marion Lee and all of the agencies, and basically have a blast email, because basically the only way you can get hired is by taking a civil service test, and nobody's going to necessarily know about that. So I think that it would be helpful to establish an email chain or what have you of persons that once we know when we're going to be giving our next test, we shoot it out there, and then everybody else kind of shoots it out beyond that. And next thing you know, we have all these additional folks that wouldn't have even have been aware of the test, right, having the opportunity, the knowledge to take the test, and that's the first part.
That's a great idea, because the only time I only knew it was either Fort Edward High School was doing a civil service test at the high school, or you go to the county building and look at the post papers that they throw on your bulletin.
Correct. Yep.
That was the only way you
Right.
knew about anything that was going on for county work, or not only police work, county work at that point in time. So that would be amazing. I think a huge benefit for recruiting, I think.
Yep.
Yeah,
We'll do that.
And you would use your outreach officer, as an added source when he's visiting
Yes.
Coffee with a Cop or whatever he's doing. You can, definitely use him.
100%.
Linda, thank you.
Did you see that in chat, Fox?
I did. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm actually going to take a picture of it on my phone so I can use it. Got it. Thank you. Works. All right. All right. So I think we got recruiting and retention down. So let's move on to page 8, grievances and complaint policy. So what do we got? Any thoughts on that?
I think that gets into where we have to make the decision, just to kind of have a general statement of what the Board of Public Safety is, what they actually have. I think there's some of that there, but I think that outlining what they do a little bit more in depth will be helpful.
All right.
The other thing too, along the lines of what we discussed at the beginning of tonight's meeting, is that with the posting of our policies online, our internal affairs policy is also going to be online, and that just basically outlines the steps of the complaint process, what happens and where it goes from there. So I think we can speak to that here as well.
All right, so should it be a separate bullet point? Internal affairs policy made available on public.
Yeah, I think so.
All right. Okay.
Chief, so that's also like what we spoke about in the beginning, I think several weeks ago, about making public limit disciplinary structures and consequences for officers, and showing limit of capacity of civilians or media structures to hold police accountable. Those are the part of the grievance and complaints parts that we putting in. Most like also that's form of transparency. Institute the Civilian Review Board. Yes, restrict how and where officers can be interrogated after being involved in an incident. This language that does not remove language or disability barriers to submitting a complaint, including publishing instructions on how to submit a complaint in multiple languages and make translation accessible as English versions are. So for our Spanish speaking public, we're gonna have language, the translations, and also like to be able to, let's say if someone with of course, you know, I think I mentioned this with our hearing, folks with our hearing impaired, or just people that don't speak English that live in our community. Well, they'll have the same translations, accessibilities to them on our website, on your website, and as far as I know it's some work, but our community are always growing, so we will have people that are not really fluent in English in the area, having that information in our city, or people that are coming off the bus that don't speak English, you know, could be from anywhere. So,
well, we can certainly seek to make it as open and accessible to everybody. Obviously, we have some limitations on, again, some of this stuff gets back to funding and staffing and skills of our staff and that sort of thing. But certainly, we want to make it available. And if somebody has issues with our department and there's a problem, that we want to make it available so that those issues or problems can get addressed. So certainly, we will seek to make it so that it's accessible to everybody.
thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, so I'll try to figure something out about that. But I thought I did put something in there about accessibility, and maybe I didn't. I had intended to.
Well, there in the bottom paragraph, it talks in general terms, I think, about beefing up the website, make it more user friendly or people with disabilities. So.
There. Yep. Okay. Yeah.
Second from the bottom.
Yep. Thank you. Yep.
Under beefing up.
Hold on a second. Is that all right? Does that meet your needs, or should I put additional language in there about additional language, I guess, additional ways to communicate other than disability? I probably should do something like that. What can that?
Were you asking me, sir?
Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm maybe I'm just.
I was just. This is like one of the documents that I sent out on the policy changes from us and our coalition, and we came up with the removal of language that has disability barriers.
Yeah, all right.
So it's just so how easy, if I had a complaint, I think we talked about this with the chief, is if I had a complaint, how easy is it for me to go to the computer and make a complaint on an officer? Is it accessible? Is it easy for me? And how soon does the chief or whatever parties get to those complaints? How soon are they addressed? Is that language that we're going to be putting in the proposal? I mean, not even in the proposal, because this could go later on. Something that we put in place later on the website. If there's a complaint that some officer was doing misconduct, go here. And then we'll follow through and contact you and leave your information and such. And also complaints that deter people. If there's something that they stated here, is to take away language that remove language that deters people from making complaints. disqualifying like complaints against officers, and there might be some language there that is telling someone that it's just difficult to make complaints. We'll get to you later. Just using one language on making complaints on officers for their misconduct.
Okay. All right.
We don't have anything currently as formal as what you're describing. Certainly, that's something that I can look to do as far as making that more accessible on the website and or even in our department lobby. But just to get to your last point, as far as how easy or how hard, it's just a matter of I personally, and the chief prior to me, takes complaints against officers very seriously, and our sergeants are quite aware. All of our on-duty supervisors are quite aware that if a complaint comes in, they don't have the ability or the opportunity to just blow a person off. They actually have to address it and open up an investigation. And if they fail to do so, then they can be open to discipline themselves.
Oh, okay.
Thank you. I don't know how you would fit that. I think that's something like we just not. I don't know if that's something that would go in the proposal, but something I think the public would like to see as far as going on in the future, that they have easier accessibility to make complaints like that, instead of coming down, making a phone call, waiting on officers, or not believing officers are taking their complaints seriously, things like that. But thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Anything else? Grievance complaint policy. All right, so let's move on to the last topic, mental health. So I want to make sure I got everything here. So I think I did, but I'm not. If there's areas where I need to beef up, or if I missed something, I would appreciate someone saying something to me.
Jim, we're under the probation department where you talk about has a diversion program. I can send you a little better language that would explain that. So
that'd be great.
Why don't I do that? It just talks about, just quickly, probation department provides services designated for the care and protection of the youth. Talks about the pins up to 18, JD, raise the age, in the preservation of family without intervention of family court. That in essence what we do, and I think we can tie in what Marcy wanted. Put a couple sentences about restorative paragraph or restorative practices in there too. So I could work on something and send it to you.
That would be awesome. Thanks, Bob. That'd be great.
And this is Rob York.
Hi, Rob.
So I was wondering if on your title, where you have the topic of discussion, you could put mental health and substance abuse.
Yes.
The LEAD program can address both. I also am curious if there's any interest among the group of including something that's called LEMERS. It's a law enforcement mental health referral system. This isn't something that Essex County is doing, and some other counties are doing it. It's an online form that the officer fills out at the point of interaction with an individual with mental health or a substance abuse issue. It's a very simple form with just a few fields with the individual's name, address, and contact information, and it goes off as a secure email to the mental health and substance abuse system, whoever we set it up, to go to. But it allows then for the system to have a real-time information about who's coming in contact with law enforcement, and it's an opportunity for the system to then reach out to the person.
Rob, I like that idea.
I think it's an excellent idea.
I do too.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Can you send me some information?
Yeah, I'll be happy to, put some of that down and send it to you, sure.
Perfect. That'd be great.
The other thing that some counties are doing and looking at is diverting to mobile crisis some of the 911 calls that are mental health related, but not necessarily like a mental health emergency or life threatening. When it's somebody who's in a mental health crisis, there's a decision tree that they use at the 911 level with a very few, like 3 or 4 questions that helps them quickly triage whether there's a need for immediate law enforcement deployment or whether it could be diverted to mobile crisis. Broome County and Schenectady County are both doing this. We share a mobile crisis service with Schenectady County. The provider is Northern Rivers. So we are already working with Northern Rivers and have them in our community. So if that's something, I don't know if it's for this plan or whether it's for discussion ongoing, but it seems like that could take some of the mental health calls off of the police when it's not necessary.
So,
Rob, this is Jason. I wonder if that is going to be handled by the county. We might want to raise that with the Warren County Sheriff's Office planning, because I think they take all the 911 calls.
yes, they do. Thank you. I was going to say the exact same thing. Yep.
Okay.
I don't know, Rob, if you're on that. I think you're on that group. Great.
Yep.
Okay.
I've raised it there as well. So.
Okay. Thanks. And I see Diana Palmer's got her hand up.
Diana.
Yeah, I was going to suggest that maybe we change the wording to say behavioral health, which is comprehensive of mental health and substance use and several other things under that category. And also in the second paragraph where it describes the social worker, I wanted to add something at the end that said, and seek to, you said that they would figure out the best ways of dealing with individuals in varying degrees and types of crisis. And then I wanted to add, and in the second paragraph, under topic of discussion, mental health.
Is it the bullet point or?
Yes.
The second bullet point, yeah.
All right. Yep. City and police department have been discussion. Okay.
I just wanted to add an end to that says that they would also seek to connect them to appropriate community resources, because I think that's a big part of what we want them to do. And then I was wondering earlier when we were discussing wellness, if the social worker may also be able to provide some training or workshops to the police on wellness.
Yeah, I think that was something that we had discussed as a possibility. I think when we initially started this whole process of talking about the social worker, several months ago, I was really wondering if we were going to have enough work for this individual. And as we've kind of gone on, I've identified many, 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 many things. So I'm starting to wonder if one is going to be sufficient. So I think it's going to be one of those things that the deeper we get into this and the more we look at it, I think that there's going to be a lot of things that I think it's going to be a great opportunity for us, for our officers, for the community as a whole. So I'm kind of looking forward to getting the ball rolling on this and seeing what we can do.
Great.
So Diana, should it just be behavioral health or should it be behavioral health and substance abuse?
I think behavioral health is comprehensive, but I don't know if Rob, if you have a different opinion.
Well, it's interesting because behavioral health is now actually starting to fall out of favor as a term just because of the focus on behavior. And I don't know.
Okay,
it is still used in some places as an overall encompassing term to include mental health and substance abuse.
Yeah. The other term that's starting to be used too is mental wellness, and so and substance use instead of substance abuse.
Right.
So that's another thing to consider as far as reframing the wording.
Substance use.
Use, right? Because abuse is a negative connotation.
Yep. And So what would you rather? Would you rather do mental? Well, what was it, Linda? What'd you say? Mental.
I've heard mental wellness because those are a positive, strength-based kind of terminology as opposed to, like Robert said, the behavioral health, the behavior part, or mental health is kind of sometimes seen as challenging. So I mean, so it's just another one I just wanted to throw out there as well.
I don't. Yeah, I don't. I'm fine with anyone. You guys are the experts, not me. So. Tell me which one you want. What way you would prefer, because I certainly want to.
So I would say, I like what Linda was saying of mental wellness and substance use. That keeps it in layman's terms as well for the public reading this. They might not understand that substance use is part of behavioral health.
All right. Anything else there that I missed?
This is Linda again. The only other thing that I was thinking about with the whole initiative and the governor's push for us to look at that, and one of the things he highlighted in his document was that looking at all the reforms, and so I don't know if we want to put that in, or would that be a good thing to put in the introduction, is that we would, this group is also supporting or looking at and considering, the juvenile justice reform, the raise the age initiative, discovery reform, those specific reforms that have already been out there in initiative. So I don't know if that would be in introductions or either under each section. Might be something, so I just wanted to throw that out to people.
All right. I appreciate you saying that. I'm not sure if I want to. Okay. We'll take a look. I'll try to. I don't know where we would put something like that. Something like maybe. I want to be general. I would like to say we encourage or look forward to any additional. I don't know. I'll figure out some wording. All right, and then we have the conclusion. Am I missing, or does anyone want to enhance that conclusion? I'm happy to let somebody do that. And then maybe we can put something in the conclusion about, the reforms that have taken place. Would that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, I'll do that. Like, acknowledge what's happened and then what, could happen down the future, and, as a community, we're, willing to, work with whatever the governor and the legislature throw at us.
Yeah, and I think it also speaks to that we're open for change and growing as we need to grow and we recognize growth.
Yeah. Okay.
I think that 180,000 is a little low. I think we should throw another 100, go high, and we'll see what we can get down the bottom. I'm just. Maybe
I was
just square it up.
trying to be conservative.
Give it a 2 and see what he can work with. We know he has some change up there somewhere in the executive chamber.
I don't know. Maybe Maybe he used to. I don't know if we have any more. So
I think he just said something about 306 billion for infrastructure just today.
yeah,
You know,
I saw that.
where's that coming from, huh? So
Comes from borrowing. All right. I can. I mean, I tried getting some rough numbers. I just looked at payroll. I didn't in benefits. I didn't really look at, all the other ancillary stuff that would go along with it. I mean, I could throw that in there as well. That's not a problem. Okay. Anything else? All right, let's talk about time frame. So we lost a little time over the holidays, so we're looking at. I want to try to get this proposal. So we're working backwards because we have the April 1 deadline. We also have to have a public hearing with the council, and we have to have approvals. The Common Council meets twice a month, so we're sort of being dictated by that. So the goal is to have a resolution on the council agenda on February 23rd to schedule a public hearing, which would be March 9th. Usually at the public hearing, we would then approve the proposal. And if there were some issues, we would then have the March 23rd council meeting to work it out and then submit it before the April 1st deadline. So, Diane, I have a question for you. So we're trying to figure out what would be the best way to get this out there to the public. And we thought about like using the Survey Monkey and like putting each section out there on the Survey Monkey and having people respond or make comments regarding that. Would that work?
Yeah, I can do that. I would just copy and paste and then put like a comment field, please provide any comments you would like to make on the above topic or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that would be a way to get that out and people can respond accordingly. And, that would allow us to then have that information and then be able to then we could have a public hearing on it. And I'm just trying to figure out what would be the best way to this would allow, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, this would allow individuals then to sit down at their computer, read at their leisure, and then make comments, considerate comments on each section of the plan. And then that way we've got a document to look at as well, because we can print out those comments and stuff. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I see where you're going with that. That's fine. Do you think we're leaving anybody out who wouldn't want to comment online? Should we put a copy of the entire draft on our website or something?
Yeah, that would be a given. Yeah, we would put that on, we'd put the link up and people then can comment that way as well. We do the notification and stuff, and then we'd have the public hearing. I don't know. Is there any other ways people have, during this COVID environment have gotten information out in different ways? Does anyone know of that we're missing? Anybody? All right.
I mean, I think we could put the whole report on the website and then list an email address, like the police email address or something, to forward public comment to. And then if you also want to do the Survey Monkey thing where it's parsed out by category, we could do that too.
Yeah, I think if we can offer a couple different ways plus the public hearing, I think that, and then they can come back and look at it. They don't have to all do it all at once. What I'm saying is, like, there's opportunities for people to hopefully be thoughtful with their comments on each of these sections. So the hope is to keep it up for a couple of weeks. So if we're looking at putting a resolution on March 23rd for a public hearing or February 23rd for a hearing on the 9th, we would have to have something. I'd have to have something to you guys very shortly with these changes so you guys can sign off on this and we can get it out to everyone. So the goal would be, I try to get this out. We try to have this all done by February 4th. That's the goal, to get out there to the public. Does that seem reasonable to everybody?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm good with that.
All right. So I'll get, so we could, Joe or Chief, am I missing something? Or we should have, do you want to have another meeting? Or if I just sent out the document and said, hey, is this all right to everybody? And everyone signs off on that?
I guess I'm just wondering, you clean it up based on the comments from tonight, you send it out to everybody, you kick it back to you, and depending on whether or not, I guess, the extent of the satisfaction with it, if it's all good, then we put it out to the public for comment. If there's significant changes or problems, maybe we get back together. I think at least at some point in time, assuming that there's no drastic changes, we put it out to the public, and then we get together again to review the public comments to see how we want to change it based on what the input from the community is, and then we send it off to the council. I'm kind of wondering about that.
Yeah, so what we would give it to the council the same time we give it to the public, so they have an opportunity to look at it, ask questions or whatever. But my thought is once I get everybody's contributions from this meeting, I can get it done. I can get the survey or get the proposal done and give it out to everybody and get everyone to sign off on it. And if everyone's comfortable with doing that, we don't have to meet. But if people want to meet one last time, we'd have to do it before February 4th.
That sounds good.
Sounds good to me.
Sounds good to me too.
All right.
Sounds good.
All right.
Sounds good.
So everyone can give me their contributions to our discussion within the next couple of days, beginning of next week. That would be great, and I will shoot to get this out to you by the end of next week. Okay. So at least we have an opportunity the next week to look at it, and if anyone wants to meet, we can at least meet one more time for this, if that sounds okay. So
Sounds great.
Awesome. I appreciate everyone's time, their commitment to this, and your insights and your just, it's been a pleasure working with all of you and in getting this done. And I think our community is going to be stronger for it. And we're not done. I mean, this process isn't done. So we'll continue to evolve. But I'm excited that we've come to a point where we're almost ready to present this, and I think the community will be really interested in seeing what the proposal is. So
excellent.
Thank you for getting this down in writing for us, Jim, and for making all the edits. We appreciate it.
No, no, my pleasure. I want to do you guys justice. You guys put a lot of work in it. I just want to make sure it's right for you guys. So, all right.
Did a great
Thank
job, Tim.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate everybody's time, and I hope you all have a wonderful evening. And we'll be in touch.
Okay.
All right, excellent. Thanks,
All
Jim.
right.
Thanks, John. Thanks, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Mhm.